I thought I would share with you poetry from the current issue of cc&d magazine, and it is called Aesthetic. I have to try to make sure I don't have a glare because there are lights in this library space for you. The cover art is actually a string painting by my sister, Sandra Kuypers, and I'm going to get up and get you this painting. I asked her permission to use this painting that she gave to me the last time I was visiting in Chicago. This was her painting, and I thought it was really incredibly cool. I really fell for it. I don't know, this beautiful flower-like quality that it had. It made me think of calla lilies or something romantic like a wedding or something, even though it was done with string and paint and wasn't meant to be that, but it just turned out so beautiful. I asked her if I could use this photo for a cover, because with a title like Aesthetic, which is the idea of concept of what is true beauty, I hope she wouldn't mind. So this was the cover. I thank you, Sandra. I was going to read you a few poems from this book because it has poems that are related to April, so I might as well share them with you. I hope you enjoy these. This one, this first one is called Zinsky's Manifesto. Haha, because it was written on the day, the calendar day, that Ted Kaczynski was actually arrested, which was April 3rd of 1996. It was a crazy story, and I won't talk about, well, I probably do in this poem. We'll see how it goes. This is called Zinsky's Manifesto. As a journalist and as a woman who wants to share the news with the literary compatriots, it seemed fitting that I included the Unabomber's Manifesto in the, get this, electronic version of my literary magazine. How is that not a stab in the back for the man who hated technology? As a writer, I try to get the word out to as many people as I can. So sure, I chose to sell my soul and succumb to the World Wide Web as a means to an end. And although the expanded audience is great, you do lose humanity in the interaction with people on the other side of the planet that you probably will never meet. By the way, the only reason that I ever got a smartphone was after a move across the country and looking for a home while I was alone. So I suppose I'm a Luddite at heart, and I can totally comprehend how, when I sometimes want my space, how too many people can be too much of a problem. If I wanted to be left alone, if I was trying to shock the system and I was trying to keep my space, sure, I'd remain unkempt. Even Albert Einstein didn't worry about his looks after getting out of his pajamas when he was writing his manifesto. Now, I still even wear my Vegetarian Planet hoodie. It says Vegetarian Planet on it. Now, I still even wear my Vegetarian Planet hoodie, sweatshirt, and call myself a vegetarian Unabomber. But I lack the sunglasses from those police sketches of him, and I suppose I also lack the bombs. Unlike, unless it's the bombs that I use when I write. If only people would read my words, if only people would react, respond. I wonder if he knew what I'm only beginning to understand, that sometimes words are not enough. The funny thing is, I did include the Unabomber Manifesto in the print editions. Online it states, because the cc&d now runs as books through Amazon, that if anybody wants any of the older issues reprinted, I'd be happy to do so. And one person did it for May 1996, and I believe that was volume 1 or 2 of the Unabomber's Manifesto in the Philosophy Monthly section. So it went over multiple issues, and I couldn't reprint part of the Unabomber Manifesto. It was just too large, and the issue also had things like a list of all of the phone numbers of congressmen, because people didn't use email. So I couldn't have some of that stuff in there, but it was funny. That was May 96, volume part 1 or 2 of 4 parts of having the Unabomber Manifesto also in print editions. So it wasn't just in electronic issues that I had it, but I don't think he would have appreciated it being revealed electronically, which is what all the newspapers do now that actually printed it back in the 90s. Washington Post, New York Times, I believe. What are the major papers? They still have the Unabomber Manifesto. I think we made a point to put it on scars.tv as well. So if you ever wanted to get a copy of it, it's out there in many locations, including my own. I'm going to stop and read to you a poem. This one is called Journalists Revealing the World. And this is on National Hug a Newsman Day, a Newsperson Day, which is on April 4th. Journalists Revealing the World. When researching and releasing the news by breaking the story, say, of academia's expropriation of funding for originally desired locations, it might not sound like it's groundbreaking material, but that is the heart of what we journalists do. We find clues and we piece together the whole truth about what's going on behind closed doors that they do not want you to see. Back in the day, that is what they taught journalists, journalism majors at the third best news ed college in the United States. Because back in the day, before there were bloggers who snooped and called themselves citizen journalists, back in the day when people took the concept of journalism seriously, freedom of the press meant something. And it was something vital here to preserve our freedoms and our rights. And when our oath as our oath as journalists to tell you everything we could so that you could make truly informed decisions, and we'd be locked up to protect our sources because, as I said, we made an oath that this is the best for all of the people in the world. Once people were tracking down the Nazi Jew killers when he was stationed in Rome. He escaped persecution, fleeing Germany and Italy. When ABC News reporter Sam Donaldson joined up with the Nazi hunter on the final leg of their quest, they cornered a Nazi captain, Erich Priebke, on the street. The people who tracked and found this man were stunned when they heard this American television reporter fire one question after another at this man, not allowing him to rest on any of his responses. Because, you see, when it comes down to it, that is precisely what we do. We do everything in our power to get all of the answers and bring them to light for the world to see. Looking for a more modern story? Okay, fine. While reading the Wall Street Journal one day, and yeah, I actually read the paper, I unfolded, flipped, and then bent those cumbersome pages because that's what it's all about when you want to get the full story. I read about how reporters kept perturbing app builders for Facebook until they uncovered that the apps were collecting and storing data from people using their apps to share with the world, which they had no right to do. So yeah, it's nice to see that journalists still know what journalism means and still do whatever it takes to get to the heart of the story. And sure, when you thumb through the paper, even if you still get one and you don't just rely on your phone, you may pass the reviews of concerts or recent television shows, because really, how newsworthy is that? But as frivolous as those things may seem, it's still a part of trying to keep you well informed as you could possibly be. It's the least we can do. And sure, there may be a lot of talking heads out there on cable, or once cable has rejected them, they turn to the internet podcasts. wait a minute, that's how most nobodies call themselves, start to their trek to fame, by spotting all of their ramblings and podcasts, hoping enough people will listen, which is so different from radicals like the Unabomber, who hated technology, who had to use the New York Times and the Washington Post to get his manifesto out there. And it's only when his brother read his manifesto that he realized who the Unabomber really was. Wait a minute. I just brought the Unabomber story up as an example of abusing the internet as a form of mass media. But now I realize that this was another way that the press can be helpful to uncover the details and reveal actual truths. Maybe this was the reason that the Founding Fathers made a point to include the freedom of press in the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, because somebody has to keep the government and major corporations and eccentric rich billionaires under watch, and us journalists are more than up to the challenge. So if you see a news reporter or a journalist, maybe you should thank them or give them a hug, because we need them to make sure everything stays in check for everyone. It makes me glad to know that they exist, because our world wouldn't be our world without them. The stay-at-home edition of Poetic License, say my own private library, and I see lots of people going for walks outside. I've just seen people walking down the street. You meet more of your neighbors, or see more of your neighbors now, because you can't go out to different places, so you'll just see people, I've got to go for a walk around the block, because you do anything to stay active. I love it. I've got a couple more for you that relate to April. This one is called Opportunity to Share Globally, and this was written in honor of April 7th, 1969, the symbolic birth of the internet. Opportunity to Share Globally. Not too long before I was born, ARPA, the Advanced Research Projects Agency, gave BBN Technologies the contract to build a precursor to the World Wide Web. Less than 2 decades later, I went to college as a computer science engineer at the university that helped lay the groundwork for the internet. Sorry, Al Gore, it wasn't all because of you. When I look back, I think of how my life in some ways may reflect the life of the internet. As we grew, so did my use of this tool to spread my literary work to people. With my hundreds of books and stacks of CDs sold in more countries than I can count, to musicians and authors literally on the other side of the planet. Snail mail couldn't do that. You may have once called me a Luddite, but my literary magazine had a web page before any other colleague I knew did. And thanks to my web partner in crime, I like that I can give people my opportunity to share their writing with the rest of the world. Thanks to this tool, I didn't know this brainchild, which was created not too long before I was born, would parallel me so thoroughly through every chapter in my life. Forgive me for waxing poetic, but maybe the internet and I, in different ways, helped each other to not only get what they want, but to also grow. Okay, maybe I can't call myself as grandiose as the internet, but really, it seems like the World Wide Web has been on my tails my whole life. So, digital or not, we may be more alike than you think. This piece is Burning Building. This is the Day of Silence edit for April 12th. And my cats are coming around like mad. This is called Burning Building. Day of Silence edit, April This is what you don't allow me to say. You tell me you want to be the hand that pulls me from the burning building. And every time I try to be rescued, you turn your back and walk away. So I will rescue myself this time again, and I will wonder if I should stop trying and allow myself to perish in the flames. And now all I can do is sit and wait, and sitting in silence is exactly what I'll do. Why do you run away when I need you most? I'm stepping over the wooden beams now, and the flames are all around me. Here, look at the blood dripping from my arms. Here, smell my flesh burning. This is what you do. I do not walk away unscathed. I never do. But now that I wait for my next burning building, I know I will never allow myself to enter it. Why can't it be easier to perish? I try, and every time at the last minute, my figure steps over the charred remains and saves me. If only there were no more burning buildings. If only I didn't have to save myself all the time. If only I could feel free just this once. If only I could feel safe with you just this once. If only your words were not the burning building. Dave Silence said it. Well, now we're going to have to try to get more bold and opinionated. This one was written for the Earth Day edit. This is Earth Was Alive and Dying for April 24th, Earth Day edit. Earth was alive and dying. I had a dream the other night. I walked out of the city to a forest, and there were neatly paved bicycle paths and trash cans every 50 feet and trash every 10. And I walked deeper into the forest, managed to get away from the picnic tables and the outhouses that lined the forest edges. The roaring cars gave way to the rustling of tree branches, crackling of fallen leaves under my step. And when the wind tunneled through, the wind whistled and sang as it flew past the bark and leaves. I walked, listened to the crack of dead branches under my feet, and I felt a branch against my shoulder, and I looked up and I could hear the trees speak to me. And they said, "Thank you for letting the endangered animals live here amongst us. We do think they are so pretty, and it would be a shame to see them go. And thank you for recycling paper, because you're saving us for just a little while longer. We've been on this planet for so long, embedded in the earth. We do have souls, you know. You can hear it in our songs. We cling with our roots. We don't want to let go." And I said, "But I don't do much. I don't do enough." And they said, "We know, but we'll take what we can get." And I woke up in a sweat. Do you even know why we should save the rainforest? Oh, preserve the delicate balance. Just tear the whole forest down. What difference does it make? I put in some orange groves so our concentrate orange juice can be a little cheaper. Did you know that medical researchers have a very, very hard time trying to come up with synthetic cures for diseases on their own? It helps them out if they can first find the substance in nature. And a tree that appears in a rainforest may be the only one of its species, or one like it with a cure maybe 2 miles away instead of right next to it. I wonder how many cures we've destroyed to plant more orange groves. Serves us right. Everything is linked here. We destroy our animals so we can be wasteful and violent. We destroy our plants. We destroy our earth. We're even destroying our air. We wreak havoc on the soil, on the atmosphere. We dump our waste into our lakes. We pump aerosol cans and exhaust pipes. And these oceans and forests keep calling out to me. The oceans, the wind. In the wild, you have no power over anyone else. now that we're civilized, we create our own wild. Maybe when we have all this power, the only choice we have is to destroy ourselves. And so we do. I will close with one more from cc&d for you. It is a piece that editors sometimes do, at least I do, when you have a piece of prose and you've got a little bit of room and it's probably not enough room for art. You can have a tiny, tiny little poem. So although this was for a calendar year for June, I've got something for the Eat Your Vegetables Day poem that's crammed in here, which is June 17th. And it's called Eat Your Vegetables, Be a Proper Girl. People who don't know me say I should be a more proper girl. They've seen me borrowing a bong in Nashville, drinking absinthe in New Orleans, and picking the strongest beers at every brewery. They smugly say, if I were a proper girl, I should eat my vegetables. So I think back to all the vegetables I eat every single day, and then I wonder how proper it is of them to have others mass produce and mass slaughter living creatures to satiate their daily desire for steak and bacon. As a vegetarian for decades, I wonder who defines what's proper, coming from those who promote death in every meal. Because I eat my vegetables, and I still have fun. cc&d magazine for you. You can pick up these things from scars.tv. The webpage for cc&d is scars.tv/ccd. There is stuff about submitting things. There are ways to be able to get issues. You can look in our book section as well as the issues listings for cc&d magazines, see things electronically, as well as get yourself a hard copy, including this really cool cover that was a string painting, which I actually have here. Ha ha, I don't know who sees it, by Sandra Kuypers, and become a part of the cc&d and Scars Publications revolution.